Good morning, everyone. How's everyone doing? So can I get a show of hands? Who was at last year's event when we had the Disaster Preparedness workshop? I got 1, 2. Anybody else? Okay. Well, thank you very much for coming. I think we have a great event planned for today. So for those of you who are returning, we do have all new speakers today. So I think that's really exciting. I know when I was at the workshop last year, I took a lot of notes and I was able to create my own emergency preparedness kit as a result. So I think you'll find yourself doing the same, and I'm really glad that you're here. This is a great event. And my name is David DeVries. I'm the Health and Safety Chair for the Rancho Penasquitos Town Council. And some quick housekeeping items. We have obviously most of you, looks like we're out of food already, so so that's good. Obviously, most of you know where the coffee, the water, and refreshments are. We do have bathrooms down this hall to our left. And is there anybody who hasn't signed in yet? Show of hands. Anyone who hasn't signed in? Okay, good. So we have all the sign-in taken care of. For those of you who showed up early, there may be some flyers that you missed out on, but I think we've got everybody covered as far as flyers go. So we should be good in that respect. Like I said, we do have some great speakers today. We have Miss Tiffany Vinson. She's from the San Diego Office of Homeland Security. And she'll be talking about the 8 signs of terrorism and see something, say something. And then we have Gary Horn from the San Diego Fire Rescue Management Department, and he'll be talking about Ready, Set, Go and also brush management. And then we have Michael Shoecraft, and he's with our local Fire Safe Council, and he'll be talking about fire protection this morning. And then at the end, we'll have some time for questions, and so that'll be a good time. And last workshop, we did go a little bit over, so just plan accordingly in case that happens again. But we want to get to all your questions and everything, so I hope everyone can stick around if that is the case again. And just thanks again to everyone for coming. I hope you have a lot of fun today. I really appreciate it. This is a great turnout, so I'm really excited to see everybody here. This is a lot of fun. And with that, I'm going to send it over to Tiffany Vinson with the Office of Homeland Security. Thank you, everyone.
All right, good morning, everybody. How's everyone doing today? Ready to get prepared? How many of you think you're already prepared? I know Robin is. All right, well, that's okay, because that's what we're here to learn today. I'm going to talk to you about the 8 signs of terrorism and If You See Something, Say Something campaign from the Department of Homeland Security. And If You See Something, Say Something came about after 9/11. A lot of people say, if you see something, say something to who? Where do you say it? If you see what are you supposed to report? So I'm here to help clarify some of these. Now, to start off, we DHS, FBI, CIA, all different organizations have different definitions of what terrorism is. So we've all settled on this definition after 9/11, and it's the unlawful use of force or violence against persons to intimidate or coerce the government. And, we're seeing things happen around the world. We haven't seen something happen here as far as an attack in some time. But it has happened. We just don't hear about it. So I wanted to go over some of the recent events that have happened. Obviously, yesterday we heard about the IED explosion at the UK's metro station. Something that was overlooked a lot in the news was there was a man wielding a hammer attacking people in eastern France who had pledged allegiance to ISIS. We've had several people throughout the U.S. get charged or convicted of supporting terrorism or pledging support to ISIS just in this week. And two of significance to me was just a few days ago, we had a man with a stolen van who claimed he had a bomb drive up to the San Onofre nuclear generating station. So it's very close to home for us. And then we had Al-Qaeda and ISIS put out monthly magazines to their fan base, to their supporters. And the most recent one from Al-Qaeda asked supporters to target California rail systems. So this is very real to us. This is very scary. And it's going to take everybody's working together to make sure that nothing happens. So the first sign of terrorism is surveillance. And a lot of people might say, well, there's someone weird hidden in the neighborhood, there's a car that's not supposed to be here. I don't know, are many of you neighborhood watch people? No? Robin? If you guys don't know Robin, you should get to know her. She's great. So surveillance is when someone's staking out, basically. You see this in the movies, someone with binoculars and a black van. It's not going to look like that 99% of the time. It's going to look like someone sitting in their car taking plans of what does a police station look like? What does a fire station look like? What does the library look like? Because they're not looking to attack, they are looking to attack big sporting events, but it's much easier for them to attack public gathering places like a library or a rec center. So this surveillance will be anywhere. And if you see someone taking pictures or kind of drawing maps of what the location looks like, just be aware of that. It's something to be cautious about. The next is elicitation. And this one we actually get at our office a lot. Are there any business owners here? All right. Do you get anyone calling saying, what security? I'm a college student. I'm writing a paper. What security do you have? Yeah. We get that one a lot. We had a venue downtown that came to us and said, somebody called up saying they were a college student, they were writing a paper, they wanted to know how many security guards we have at these events, when do they start the shift, when do they end the shift, when do they rotate shifts? Pretty clearly elicitation, right? Trying to find out the details of your security. So if you get any of those calls, report them because that's a pretty big sign. And then there's testing security. So a lot of us remember after 9/11, there were a lot of tests of security at airports, right? There was the guy with the shoe bomb who tried to get through. There was the guy with the diaper bomb who tried to get through security, through TSA. And so what we see is that people want these terrorists or terrorist sympathizers like to see how far they can get so that when they actually do their plot, they'll be successful. And the next is funding. Now this is one that's going to be a little on the rare side given the current terrorist climate, because right now we're looking at terrorism that is a lot of the time spontaneous or ISIS-inspired, Al-Qaeda-inspired, meaning they sympathize with them, they see an opportunity, and they go take it. However, some of the larger cells tend to put together funding schemes. So if you see someone paying or trying to amass prepaid cards or cash, gift cards, those kind of things, it's kind of odd if someone's always paying with a gift card. Not to say that there's anything wrong with gift cards, but if someone's exclusively paying in that's something that might be odd. If you get an idea that someone is doing illicit activities to earn money, such as drugs or trafficking, something like that, that's often a way to finance terrorism. And in fact, we see a lot of that with the cartels down in Mexico. Acquiring supplies. This one's interesting because to me, before I started this gig, I always thought that acquiring supplies meant they're buying bombs, right? But it's not as blunt as that. A lot of times we're seeing these people impersonate public safety officials. So they'll pretend that they're a police officer. They'll pretend that they're a firefighter because who do you trust, right? You trust your firefighters. They're great people, but how do you know that they're real firefighters? So sometimes we see people stockpiling these uniforms so that they can start their plan. Or we'll see them buying up fake badges. So if you see a police officer or firefighter and something just kind of looks weird about their uniform, their badge doesn't look quite right, take a mental note, take a chance to report it. It could be nothing, it could be something very important. Yeah, let me go back to that. So Something that we've also seen lately is, we saw in the Boston Marathon, was the homemade explosive devices. And that's something that's getting very popular. It's constantly in the magazines of these terrorist organizations. And they're saying, it's really easy to make a bomb. Here's how you do it. And they give step-by-step instructions in these magazines for people to learn how to make bombs. And in fact, I believe it was Al-Qaeda about a year ago put out a magazine article that was how to make a bomb in the kitchen of your mom. Yeah, they're getting creative. So it is not hard to build a bomb. It takes things that you buy at Rite Aid, Home Depot, gardening stores. It's very easy. So if you see someone buying an odd amount of hydrogen peroxide from Rite Aid, it might be something to look into. It might be something to take a note of and report. Okay, impersonation. This goes right along with the acquiring supplies, someone getting police or firefighter uniforms, especially around Halloween. It's a little easier to get these, although they look quite fake Halloween costumes. But impersonation, again, they'll come out and they'll say, I'm your friendly firefighter. I'm here to check out the library. It happens. It happens. And then rehearsal. So this is kind of like testing security, except it is doing a full-blown rehearsal for the entire plan. So if someone's, we saw this in France during the complex coordinated attack last year. These people drove down the streets, timed the lights, counted the timing of the lights so they could make sure that they started their attack at the right time for maximum explosion, for maximum area coverage. So if we see someone who is kind of running through with a uniform or walking through, playing out a scenario that might be terrorism, especially looking at traffic lights. We tend to see that one's a big indicator. They're timing traffic lights. That's a little funky because I personally I don't know about you, but I don't have much care for how long a traffic light is, unless I'm sitting at a red one. And then deployment. So at this step, this is the step where you call 911. If you see someone with a bomb, if you see someone with a gun, a machete, a hammer, getting ready to attack, call 911 and run, because this is happening. Something about deployment is with ISIS, they're saying, look, if you can't make a bomb, then get a gun. If you can't get a gun, then get a hammer or an axe. If you can't get a hammer or an axe, get a rock and beat someone with it. So these attacks aren't always going to look the same. They're going to change based on the availability of funds and resources to the attacker. But deployment is key, and at this point, don't try to be a hero. Don't try to stop it yourself, because you don't want to put your life in danger unnecessarily. Call 911. And then people say, how do we report suspicious activity? And this is something that I really wasn't all that aware of, to be honest, before I started with Homeland. And this website right here, sd-lecc.org/SAR, is where you can fill out the form. You can put your name, you can make it anonymous. Obviously, we prefer names and contact info so we can follow up with these tips and leads. But it's the #1 way to get it straight in the hands of the people that investigate terrorism. We have a cell within within one of our organizations that exclusively investigates terrorism tips and leads. And a lot of the tips and leads are bad leads. They're nothing, right? But some of them are, and some of them are a little suspicious, but it's not enough to indict someone on. It's not enough to charge someone on something. But if I have part of a lead, and you've got a lead, and he's got a lead, maybe these 3 pieces make sense. And I can say, that guy's trying something. Let's go get a warrant. Let's go subpoena him. So we need several tips and leads to put together the whole picture. You might have the piece of the puzzle that's critical to us stopping someone. And then obviously who, what, when, where, and why it's suspicious. On this website, you can also upload photos. So if you have photographs, that's even better because we can get a clean visual. And then if you're not sure if something's suspicious, make sure that you're not just looking at religion or ethnicity or nationality. Things like that alone are not suspicious activity. It is not suspicious that someone is a certain religion. If someone is saying Allah Akbar with a X, that's a little different. But being a certain religion is absolutely not a terrorist activity. So make sure that it's truly suspicious. And then if you have some questions, like maybe you saw someone who might be testing security, they're counting the traffic lights, the timing of them, go ahead and report it. No harm, no foul. If you report it and it goes into the system and it's nothing, we just put it aside. It goes into the system and that's it. But if you don't report it and it is something, we could miss the key clue and have something terrible happen. So there are ways to get involved right now, and we're trying to get as many people involved as possible because it really truly does take all of us to know that, to stop terrorism. So the first one, and one of my favorite organizations, is InfraGard San Diego. They are an FBI nonprofit organization, guided by the FBI nonprofit. I sit on the advisory board as a Homeland Security representative for the San Diego chapter. And this group helps people not only learn about how to protect their homes, how to protect their businesses, how to protect their critical infrastructure, but also, once you're vetted, you can get tips on what's happening. You can get reports, situational reports on terrorist attacks. You can get an idea of what terrorists are putting out there so you know what signs to look for. And this is an FBI program run by the FBI with their nonprofit. It's absolutely free to join. So I always encourage people to join. And then part of our program at the city's Office of Homeland Security is we provide the regional training program. So although we're the office, we are the fiduciary for all of San Diego County. And we're always trying to get more private sector involvement. And this site right here, sduasi.org, is a site exclusively dedicated to training that we put on. And that can range from awareness training to how to write a plan to protect your business training. Of course, there's training in between, or more specific, like confined rescue training that we pay for firefighters to attend. Those are not open to the public. But awareness courses, planning courses, most of the courses are open to the public, so we would love if you would sign up and join us. And then, of course, CERT, I'll let our fire rep talk about that. So with that concludes my presentation. Any questions?
I'm just interested in the last previous slide. Is there a way that
Yeah, absolutely. Actually, if you go to, is it in here? It's not in here. David. If I really PowerPoint or this slide,
Right.
you need it out.
Right, yeah,
Okay.
I can do that, yeah. Yeah,
Okay.
so I can get the PowerPoint out there. Thank you. Let's thank you.
Excuse me, there's one thing that a question I have that may sound silly.
That's okay.
But how can you tell if somebody is timing a stoplight? I mean,
It's hard to tell, and a lot of times we'll see someone who is pretending to be homeless, sitting by a light, and they're sitting there for an exorbitant amount of time. So if you're sitting there waiting for the light to go, you see them cross, they're probably not timing. But if they're standing there for longer than the normal person would, that's something that's a little weird, and you might want to report that.
Thank you. Okay, next up we have Mr. Gary Horn with our San Diego Fire Rescue Management Department.
Thank you, Dave. Thanks, Mike. Thanks for having us. Tiffany, great job. Great job. Actually, Tiffany stole the thunder when it came to Ready, Set, Go, because it's about planning and deployment. Thank you, Tiffany. So that's, with that being said, let's see. So you look at my phone? Yeah. Tiffany, where's it at? That. Okay. So some of these, I'm gonna just kind of move through them because it's a pretty standard one that I give. But the main thing here, if we talked about Ready, Set, Go, you all have that pamphlet in front of you. It's a brown, big booklet, yeah, like this. And there's also a smaller one version like this. Okay, and this talks about the physical space, which we'll spend a little time discussing that today, thank you. And the Ready, Set, Go, we'll spend some time discussing that. But more importantly, this is like your Bible for people that live in wildland urban interface, because it kind of helps you to understand what it is that you're trying to get ready for. So it's this simple. The planning stage, like I said, Tiffany walked us through it. You're gonna plan to, which is the ready side of it. You're gonna get all your thoughts as to what's important to you that you wanna take if you had to evacuate from your home. That's what Ready, Set, Go is all about. What do you need? The medicines, food, water, these sorts of things that you're gonna need in on a routine basis, daily. And maybe enough for 3 days or 4 days, because you don't know that you're going to be able to get back if it's a fire. I'm just using a fire. It could be all hazards, right? So the next stage of ready, so the preparing ready is like having a plan. Hey, what am I going to do if I have to evacuate, right? So then I'm not going to undermine your knowledge, because you know what you need. You go on camping trips, you go on vacations, so you pack these things already. So let's go to set. Set is, I'm getting ready to go on my cruise, right? So now I need to have my luggage staged at the door, right? I gotta have all my bags, because the next day something's gonna happen. It's called go. So set, I stage everything at the door, because lo and behold, when we're getting ready to go on vacation, if it's not at the door, what's gonna happen? We're gonna forget it. And even though we're not in an emergency like a fire that's in our community, we're in an emergency because we're going on vacation, right? That's real important. So stage it, and we call that a to-go kit. I have a to-go kit at my house. I'm not going to pick on you because Tiffany did, but I'm sure you probably have one too. 4 of them, right?
Well, you want to have it in a car, you want to have where you work, you want to have it home.
Prepared. That's exactly what. You want to have your to-go kit ready to go. It could be in your home, be at your workplace, be in your car. It could be in any number of places, because any of those places, like Ms. Robin just quoted, are places that you could be in an emergency. You may not be able to get back home. I remember up in Orange County, Black Star Canyon, big fires that are going on up there. It's lots of emergencies that happen in the canyon sometimes, but these people weren't able to get home. They had mudslides, Majestic Canyon, Black Star, and they weren't able to get home for days. Can you imagine if you didn't have that kit in your car and that emergency happens? What happens next? You got to get medicine. You got to reach out to your doctor for this, that, and the other. You got to, so many things that you have to do. So also have like contact numbers for things, so that your family members will know where you're at. Having like a place that you all can rendezvous. Should there be an emergency. And then of course go. Go is like, I'm getting ready to go on that cruise. I've already called for the taxi. I already had the car staged. I take my to-go kit, I put it inside the car, and we're on our way. So that's the Ready, Set, Go. That's what that entitles. It gives you a lot more details and some great ideas, because I'm not going to customize what you're going to have in your to-go kit. That will give you some great ideas, but you need to customize it, because it's going to be your kit and your life is going to depend on it, or at least the comfort and convenience of a few days of being away from your home. You'll have what you need. So as I said, I'll kind of go through these slides in a kind of quick fashion, but defensible space is this. If you live in a canyon rim home, the city of San Diego, because a canyon, most of it is what? Environmentally sensitive lands, ESL, right? So if you live in that kind of a area, there's only so much that you can do, which is zero. You can't plan on it, you can't develop on it, you can't do anything to it. And then there's times of year where you really should stay out of it. It's called MHPA, which is Multiple Habitat Planning Area, which everyone that lives near canyon are familiar with a little bird called a gnatcatcher, right? So it's a protected species, but it's a nesting season that's going on. So they want you to stay out of there so you don't spook the bird. Or if you end up finding a bird there, you don't be like, hey, I found a nest over here, because other predators that's been around stalking these birds and everything else, they're watching your activity. So if you go over there and pointing that there's a nesting egg, that coyote, he may not do it right then, but later on, now that you pointed it out and brought it to his attention, he didn't have to try so hard. So stay out of the areas doing MHPA, and these guys have been hiding and ducking each other for millions of years. So we don't want to get in the way of that. So anyway, the defensible space side of it is in the 90s, the city said, okay, just like a lot of other cities, if you live in the WUI, like you built your house in the wildland area, the canyons and so forth, you're blessed to be able to do 100 feet that you can develop, which we call thinning and pruning vegetation. And that's going to clear this area so that, you can go to the next slide. That's going to clear this area which you have on that pamphlet. Remember the smaller pamphlet I showed you? This one? It's trifold or whatever. It's got that same screen print in the middle. So you're gonna thin and prune it. So like right here, when we talk about 50% of vegetation, I'm gonna really keep this simple. That looks like it's really heavy. Then that doesn't look like it changed very much, does it? Well, 50% is just like that. So a lot of folks, they think, oh wow, when I see a lot of dense vegetation, oh my God, they need to thin and prune. But no, it's not that. Because if they need to denude it. They need to get rid of all the vegetation. We don't want you to denude the land, because now you're going to cause another problem, and that's the integrity of your soil, erosion. So when there's rain, all of a sudden the dirt goes downhill, it causes gullies and all kinds of issues with structural integrity. So all we want you to do is just maintain it. So that 100 feet from the back of your house, it includes this area we call Zone 1. Zone 1 is that area where you out there on a Saturday, mowing the lawn, or having someone else do it, and it's flat, it's about a couple inches off the ground, nice beautiful vegetation. That's your backyard, right? Zone 2 is where it slopes, goes into a canyon. I'm gonna talk about people that don't have a Zone 2 as well, because I see some of you guys looking. But Zone 2 is the slope canyon rim, right? So once it starts to slope down, even if your backyard only had 10 feet of backyard, and then all of a sudden the canyon sloped down, that sloping down portion is the Zone 2. 100 feet is from the actual back of your house out into the canyon, period. 100 feet out. So once you get out, and it's the total width of your parcel. So once you get out the 100 feet, you're able to thin and prune. The first Zone 1 is nothing really for you to do but what you normally do. Remember, that's just cutting your grass and all this. The next, you're gonna be thinning and pruning. So if you have like bushes, you just wanna cut the branches underneath them so that those on a bush, so that those branches underneath them are like 2 feet off the ground, kind of shaped like an umbrella. So, and that's so that you can see what's underneath them. But I always say this, so that you don't really have to worry about a lot of that. If you just rake up the dead vegetation that's off the ground, you can hold your question to the end, just make note of it, put it in the parking lot. But you rake the dead vegetation off the ground, that's gonna create space. And a lot of folks don't think about that. The space that we're trying to create in between these bushes, so that if there was a fire, it wasn't this intense fire and all the brush is on fire, then it causes the fire to connect to this, that, and the other, almost like a crown fire where, from tree to tree, the fire is burning because of lack of separation. That's why you're separating these bushes. That's why they have you thin and pruning. And the other thing is, if you have tall grasses, like tall weeds, you can take those things down to 2 inches. And say you have a bush that's in that 100 feet that we're talking about, and you go, man, I want to get rid of this bush. You can take that bush down to 6 inches. Just don't pull it up by the root, because you're saving the integrity. And I know the question is, hey, I have these weeds, I want to pull them up by the root. The city of San Diego, we're saying, no, don't do that. Leave the root in the ground, it's helping with the integrity. So take the weeds down to, maybe a couple inches, right? And leave it at that. That's your defensible space. That first Zone 1, again, that's what you normally do to your yard. Hopefully everybody has a beautiful landscape. We live in Rancho Penasquito, it's a beautiful place. And you all do a great job. And then part 2 of that is the Zone 2, which is the canyon rim. Now, if you live in most of us do, we don't live in the canyon realm, we just live in a regular neighborhood. There's a section under the California Fire Code called 304 that deals with weeds and dead vegetation. So the weeds and dead vegetation, there's some examples. I think we go through the slides here.
Right.
Maybe the next one. Well, this kind of gives you a picture of zone 1 and zone 2 that we discussed. I'm gonna get to one where I'm gonna show you some weeds. So this is zone 1 and 2. So zone 1 is going back to the backyard from the back of the house to that look like maybe the fence. And then of course the slope starts after that fence. And now your parcel may be 300 feet long, right? But what's the rule? 100 feet. So we're not worried about down here, we're just worried up here. Now, you go, well, I want to thin and prune my entire parcel. No, this is the ESL, so you're not able to do any kind of developing in there. The city is only granting you to be able to do 100 feet from the back of your house out. So that's what you have to remember. And that 100 feet includes your backyard, your regular standard backyard. So next slide. This is just an example of thick vegetation. But if someone looked at this thick vegetation, they go, oh man, those people are in violation. Well, if I got up on this balcony and I looked down, the person they could have done all their brush management in there. It could be done, 100 feet of it. And all you're seeing from a topographical view, like looking across the canyon, is all this thick vegetation. But in reality, the thinning and pruning and all the separation is done. It's just thick vegetation from the top, a lot of the crowns. We can't cut trees down and move them out of the way. That's a whole nother thing by itself. We don't do that. We could separate the crowns, we could cut the clippings away, but our main concern is on a tree, the city goes from the ground up. So in other words, the first branch on that tree is 6 feet off the ground. That's all we're looking at. The first branch is 6 feet off the ground. If a tree, this covers defensible space, or if you just live anywhere in a community not even near canyon. If a tree touches your chimney outlet, that branch, you need to get rid of that. We've gone to homes where people, we point that out and they go, oh my God, I've never even noticed that. And the branch has all kinds of burn marks on it. Because they've been running their chimney and not even paying attention that this branch is over there. I don't cut anyone short on that. Sometimes people just don't walk around their house. I do, but sometimes people don't, and they don't pay attention to that. I know you guys are saying be hard on them, but being hard on them is this. We need to educate each other. So if there's a branch that's over someone's house and you don't want to take the time to go to them and you don't know them, just contact us. I'll give you some numbers at the end, and we'll have someone come out and address that from the complaint section. The other thing is if there's a dead branch, or even appears to be a dead branch, and it's touching someone's structure, again, that needs to be removed. That dead branch that's touching the structure. That's pretty much it on trees, because here's a lot of times folks are gonna want trees cut because it's blocking their view, and they'll say everything else other than that the reason that tree needs to come out. But it may be blocking their beautiful view, and they pay for this home to look into the canyon, and there's this giant tree that goes, hey, I'm here. But we can't do anything about that. That's between you and your neighbors. And if it's in the wildland, you moved into the wildland, the city's not going to cut it down. It's a part of the wildland. So we'll go to the next slide. Maybe a couple.
No.
No, I'm just looking. Okay, these are the things that I just covered here. Okay, Bill, stay right here. Stay right here.
Yep.
Okay, providing that 100 feet of defensible space, it allows a couple things. A, it allows the firefighter to be able to get in there and fight the fire. B, it keeps the separation in the community safe. It makes your community more safer community from home to home. Because really, we're looking for that unified approach, even though we take it parcel by parcel. Because in reality, how does real success or real defensible space occur? It occurs individual by individual, right? And we can't paint a brush and say everyone's home has to look like this, because everyone's terrain is different. Suppose your terrain goes out like this, where it's gradual and it goes out, and you want to do vegetation management. That's great. Now suppose your neighbor right beside your house, theirs goes like this from the backyard, and it goes whoop, straight down. Are we going to require them to do brush management off the side of a cliff? No. Not unless you really hate your neighbor. You can just tell them, hey, you can do it. But you're not. If someone's got to be on belay and somebody on rappel, you gotta anchor yourself to the fence to do it. Don't do it. Don't do it. You're not gonna live to be able to enjoy your beautiful home. So don't do it. Okay, so next slide. Okay, we covered this about the chimney and dead vegetation. Don't leave anything in the canyon. When you cut it, get rid of it. How am I doing on time? Okay, so let's keep moving. We'll get through this thing. Pools, good thing. If you have a swimming pool, just remember that's part of defensible space. When we're doing our checklist, we're looking at that because the pool probably sometimes carries quite a few gallons of water, and it will help in the community if there is a fire. And that's part of, obviously we look at it as part of defensible space in a very positive way. But combustibles around your property, you see how all that wood is right there? We try and say, hey, get that away from your house as much as you can. Sometimes building a platform further away from over in the corner of the backyard is a good place for wood because in the wintertime it does get a little cold. But I wouldn't put it up against my house. A, it can bring termites and stuff too, and rats and everything else. But B, it's a fire hazard because it's dry, dead wood, right? And everything burns, concrete burns, everything is combustible. But we can limit ourselves with the combustibles. So next slide. If you have a tile roof, it's a beautiful thing. But embers or firebrands, they fly everywhere. They do all kinds of damage. I think I actually have a slide which shows what they do to screens and so forth. Just caulk it up. Any kind of opening that you have, caulk it up, make it even more safer. This is a beautiful roof to have. But any kind of openings and stuff like that, you want to caulk it up. And if you have ventilation around your house, there's the 1/4-inch mesh that goes behind the holes and so forth. Get like 1/8-inch, which is even half that size, because if there's a true fire, you want to make sure that the brands aren't able to get into the walls and start a fire. So next slide. An example of that, going back to that house, those trees and stuff beside it, they burn down, the house burns down. Some of these trees and some of these HOAs and stuff, they have customized these communities with, the beautiful aesthetics and the beautiful ornamental presentation of vegetation. However, just kind of keep in mind that some things burn a lot faster than others. And so a community like that, they can develop it in any type of a way. The difference between the WUI is the wildland, you can't develop that. You can only create the defensible space. So next slide. That's an example of what firebrands do. You see how they punch holes all in that screen? Because it's not going to stop the fire from getting into your backyard or into your patio area. But just kind of keep in mind that even though you have that screen there, that stuff it's all over the place. It's all a part of the air. It's like pollen. And some firebrands, just like palm fronds, the little pieces, they will fly for miles. You may not be able to see the fire, but those brands are in the air and they're still hot and they're still gonna land somewhere. Next. An example of, just having a hardened structure. The structure didn't burn, but the stuff around it did. Next. Again. Okay, so even this brick, an example of this, brick chimney, everything around it burned, but the chimney is still standing. Next. So, trees within 10 feet, remember I talked about that? If it's within 10 feet of a chimney, you can cut it back. It's actually a violation. So, before it touches the outlet, if it's getting near it and it's within 10 feet, cut it back. Okay, next. This is an example of having a lot of combustibles. I know people laugh, they go, my backyard would never look like that. This is Rancho Penasquita's beautiful neighborhood. There are people in other neighborhoods that let their community and their backyard get like this. I don't want to say that would happen if I, went on vacation or something like that, because my yard, it stays pretty immaculate. I'm the person that gets a haircut all the time. So this right here is people trying to store stuff. In the city of San Diego, under Development Service Code Enforcement Division, it's illegal to store stuff in your yard other than like patio furniture or things that, I got the lawnmower out, but I'm gonna cut the grass today. Other than that, it's supposed to be stored in a storage shed or something to that effect. And your garage is not a storage either, your garage is for parking your car. And so just keep that in mind. I'm not from code enforcement, I'm just letting you know. I'm sure you probably heard that, I heard a laughter. So, don't have a bunch of stuff around your house because if there was a fire, because of, the tree don't start the fire, but the tree adds to it if it ends up being a fire. And all that stuff is just stuff that's gonna burn. So next. Weeds, trash, same story. Next. Accumulation of, dead vegetation. Someone may have cut it, maybe, and just dropped it and left it. That's not cool either. If you're gonna cut the vegetation, the main thing that notice of violation and anyone else is gonna tell you in the city and the fire department is please remove it. Please remove the dead vegetation. There's no reason to cut it, you just added more fuel. This is an overgrown yard. I mean, really. So we see something like that, you can call it in. I'll give you a number that you can call and make a complaint. And someone will come out and inspect that. Okay, next. No violation, no branches. This guy is kind of a tall guy. No branches below 6 feet. It's a good thing. The yard, this is like how a backyard, typical backyard would look. Yeah, typical backyard would look, right? So, next slide. Okay, so here's some miscellaneous phone numbers. I know that looks like a lot, right? But it's some miscellaneous phone numbers. If you want, like say you have an abandoned vehicle in your neighborhood, you can go to that, you can call that phone number and it'll provide you with this www.sandiego.gov, and you go to that Get It Done app page, and you can file a complaint to have a vehicle that needs to be abated in your community removed. That means a vehicle that's not running. It's it's a vehicle that someone would normally drive, but they've abandoned it. They'll come out and inspect it. So that's for that. That's the abandoned vehicle abatement program. If you have that miscellaneous where people are storing stuff in their yard and it looks a mess, contact code enforcement at 619-236-5500. That number that for the abated vehicles, it's a non-monitored number. It's a non-monitored number, so if you call that number, it's just gonna be informational only. It's gonna tell you what I just put there. And then San Diego Fire Rescue, weed abatement, or anything to do with brush that you wanna report, call that number, 619-533-4444. Next. Main thing here is this is the last slide. Stay safe. If you do a little bit at a time, it's better than waiting till you get a notice of violation and it's gonna cost you a fortune. And I really say it's gonna cost you a fortune because somebody's gonna see dollar signs. I'm coming out there and create the defensible space for you. But really, and it may not cost that much either. I mean, you may actually do it yourself. But if you do a little bit at a time, you're gonna get it done. Even if you tell your gardener that routinely cuts your backyard, and this is for people that live in the canyon rim. You go, hey, I want you to do this little corner of the canyon for me while you're doing it. And then next week, or I want you to do that side. And you just have them do a little bit at a time. You can give them, a little extra money to do that. That's the way to do it. And then you're gonna have a brush management's gonna be in place. And the learning process of how beautiful, a lot of times people go, I didn't even know I had that back there because it had been so thick and no one ever called them on it. And they realize they have such a beautiful canyon, but it's just overgrown. That's all I have. Thank you. Yes, sir.
Yes, Gary, good morning.
Good morning.
Question, I'm with an HOA to the condo complex here in town, in the local area.
Okay.
And it abuts a land area that's unimproved, and I'm told by some of the residents that's environmentally sensitive, but I can't back that up.
Okay.
Is there a specific agency or city office I can go to confirm its status?
Yeah, you sure can. You can contact Development Services at that number that's up. Okay. The number, you don't have to go back to it. I think it's 619-236-5500. 236-5500. Did I nail it? Anyone that had that number? Okay. So that's that. And then the other thing is, if that land is overgrown and it abuts your property, contact the fire department because someone needs to come out and inspect that to see if it's some kind of violation there. And they will. Ma'am? Oh, wait, I'm sorry, you had your hand up first.
So we live out in the canyon, and we've got our defensible space, but toward the bottom of the canyon, it's more than 100 feet from our property. We know that there's a lot of dead brush down there.
Yeah.
Should we take that out, or should we call somebody?
Well, we don't go into the ESL. It's just nature, you know, the rain, the wind. We don't water it. You don't put any irrigation out there. But if it's something that you can pull up, you know, that's dead vegetation, that you know that's dead vegetation, if you want to bring that up out of there, that's fine. But I wouldn't go down there. You don't have, that's no responsibility that you have. That's just like saying that there's a tree that fell in the middle of the forest at Yellowstone. You know, it's a dead tree. It's just going to go back into the forest and, you know, be a part of the forest. But if it's something that's reachable and it's not going to, you're not going to be killing yourself to drag it out of there, of course, that's fine. But I wouldn't really go into the environmentally sensitive land because you could end up damaging something. So that's why the area that's directly behind your house is really the area that you can operate on, that 100 feet. And if your backyard is 90 feet, then you can only go into the wildland 10 feet. You know, that means if your backyard was 100 feet of flatness, right? Remember I told you that zone 2 is only the slope. And all of a sudden the zone 2 drops off after 90 feet, then that 10 feet back there is the only part that you can do brush management on. Sir?
When you look at a Google map and judge our 100 feet by flat,
Yeah,
or
you
don't
could.
have to do 100 feet by
Good to see you, by the way. Good to see you, by the way. Yes, you could do that. You can use Google. Google also has a feature where you can measure. I think if you right click, it gives you like a little measurement. So you can, it may not be as accurate as going to, you know, the county and getting your numbers for your parcel and stuff, but it's pretty accurate. You know, it's pretty accurate. It gives you an idea of what you can do. And for us, you know, we come out, we're able to see it as well because we have tools that we see and we bring our paperwork out there, which shows us exactly where the 100 feet is. Sir?
So the 100 feet is measured from the structure, not from the property?
Not from property line. Yeah, you're going from the back of the, because suppose, good question. Suppose you had that long parcel like this young lady was saying, and you go all the way out, it's 1,000 feet. If you're going that way, you would, you know, you possibly wouldn't make it back to your house. You know, you'd be like, oh my God. But in reality, all you're worried about is the back of the structure, the most extended portion of the back of the structure too, right? So the back of the structure out, livable, habitable space. Wow. Next question, I think you have.
I had a notable arborist come out to my house to get a quote for trimming a tree back that's touching our roof. It's the size of our house, and it was planted just like 4 or 5 feet away from our house, actually. And he suggested that I let it feed and then show me a portfolio of all these houses that had burned, houses that didn't burn because of the trees around them, but the other houses did. And he said a healthy, well-watered tree is actually a good thing. So he didn't even want to cut it back. And I was like, oh, wow, he's not taking my money, so I guess I should leave him. But now I'm thinking maybe he was just trying to sell me more trees. I don't know.
Well, you nailed it when you said arborists because they love trees. But yeah, you know, bottom line is if it's a violation of the things that we talked about where it's a dead branch, yeah, or if the branch is touching the structure, it's getting near the chimney or any of that stuff, cut it back. But if you have a tree that's built near your house, think about like all the homes that were built over the years. They built these trees and they were right by the house. No one's going to tell you to cut that tree down, you know. It's on your structure, it's on your property, and if you wanted to cut the tree down and it's right on your property, it's not in the wildland, it's on you. But in reality, a lot of these trees were built close to the structure because it was aesthetically beautiful. And all of a sudden this thing become like mammoth, you know, beside the house, and it's pressing up against the house. I personally think that you got to make a choice there. It's either the tree or your house.
Yeah. I'm worried worried about the safety, but he told me that because it's a healthy tree, it'll help protect my house from fire, so.
Anything burns, I wouldn't get into what an arborist is telling you. That obviously that's the science that they work, that's their magic. But I just say that any and everything that burns, just kind of keep that in mind. Our only concern and only thing that I'm gonna stay with always is the stuff that are a violation. So the branch, you have to remove that. Okay? Yes, ma'am.
Question about the long, tall pine trees.
Yes.
If they're too close to the structure, are those hazard or?
They burn, just like we were just sharing here. It's a tree and it burns. But again, if any of the branches are not touching the structure, and at the bottom, you want to skirt those up where they're like not 6 feet, 2 feet off the ground because of the brush is kind of like a bush at the bottom. But the branches aren't sticking out like this. So the main thing with those is just skirting them up off the ground so that you can see what's growing underneath them. And I think the ones that you're talking about, they're almost like a toothpick. They're skinny.
They're touching, like, they're touching the roof, and we're kind of cutting them
Yes.
not to touch the structure, but.
Right. And it looks weird. So aesthetically, it's not pretty. See, but now you're talking to a person. Yeah.
Most concern would be like as a
The fire side. Yeah. I'd say like it's like the cancer. You know, you got to cut that part away, and then But here's the issue, and I don't know a whole lot about trees like that. But topping off trees, you got to be real careful. You may want to make sure you have a tree doctor out there because if you top off a tree, sometimes it kills them. So I don't know a lot about that, but I know that I've seen people do that, and we didn't ask them to do that, and they end up cutting them off, and the trees die. But that may have been their master plan anyway. But no more questions? Well, I want to thank you all for your time. I thank these guys for their fire safe council. They're a very integral part of the fire department, and you all being involved with fire safe council is truly very important. Your community depends on it. And I just really want to thank Mike. These guys take time. They're out there slaving all the time, trying to get the fire department involved and staying connected in their community. And we have a lot of fire safe councils that are throughout the county and throughout the city. You are our eyes and ears. You are our family, and we respect that and appreciate that. We need you all to support Mike and these guys with the Fire Safe Council here in Rancho Penasquitas. And if you ever need anything at all, I'm throwing a plug in there for him because that's what they do. These guys are very important for us, and it's important for you all to be connected to them because they're a voice that represents you all as well. So thank you.
I'm going to ask Gary to stay up here. I took some pictures in our community, and a couple of caveats first. Some instances I did not get permission. There was one instance where the gentleman asked me not to use his house, and it's as a good example. It is a good example. So I didn't take his house, but I did take what work he had done on brush management. But I've got some examples of our community of how to do it, how not to do it, and I'm asking Gary to comment on them. We'll start with this one.
Well, for us, we never ever, so just so if you want to send a picture into the fire department about a violation, we don't make a judgment on any picture because someone can get down like this, take a picture of a blade of grass and go, oh my God, look at the size of these trees in my neighbor's yard. So we don't do it that way. But if I had to look at this picture overall, like this area here, like it's thick vegetation, that area there, it's thick vegetation. But suppose that area that's thick vegetation over here, did you have a pointer? No. Okay, suppose that area that's thick vegetation that's over here was real low growing vegetation. Now, I can't tell that. He probably knows, but I can't tell that just by looking at that that's not low growing vegetation. Suppose it was like ice plant or something that like grows really low. We're not going to see a problem with that. We're not going to have you cut that and shape it. But suppose that bush was like this, right? And it was real thick bushes. Well, if that parcel was as wide as I think it is, there are spaces that you can have that are 400 square feet, which is the size of like, I think, a two-car garage. That if it's low growing vegetation or if it's a brush, that you can have it together like that. But in those big parcels like that, you're gonna see people that have clumps of it that are 400 square feet. But if it's a small parcel and it's not really ever a simple answer, right? If it's a small parcel and it just comes straight down like that and you're only dealing with this brush, and it looks like that brush is lower than the house, I don't know that, I would have to be out there to see it to say that there's a violation. The trees look good, that's in the backyard, the zone 1. The zone 2, even though that brush is there, I don't know that, I'd have to look at it and be able to see that there's some kind of violation there. Because even if you have bushes out in your back, zone 2, but they're like 4 feet high, it's not really an issue, not unless we're looking at separation. Like, and again, if that's only for that parcel, then I would want to make sure that you had some separation, at least where the firefighters can get in between the brush if they have to fight. And because we're only going to go 100 feet, and so I don't know that from the back of that house to about right here is 100 feet or right there. I can't make a judge off of a picture. But that's a lot of vegetation that's right there. And that tree, I can't tell that if there's a branch that's lower than 6 feet. But that's the issue that I would have with the tree. Remember, we don't go from the top down, we go from the bottom up.
Next.
In a case where I can see this is pretty close, I would say like with this bush, if this bush was a part of this house, you're gonna have to skirt this up, because this looks like a bush more than a tree. It's just a big bush. Skirt it up, in other words, so that it has like in your brochure, that umbrella shape. So skirt it up so that you can see what's underneath it. And if you can see what's underneath it, guaranteed you're gonna have the 2 feet, guaranteed. If you cut underneath here so that you can see what's growing underneath there, you're gonna meet our standard. Guaranteed, because you'll see what's underneath there. And once you see what's underneath there, you're gonna rake it out. Because remember, what's the rule? If you cut it, you can't leave it in the canyon, right? It's dead vegetation, so we have to pull it out. All these weeds and stuff like that, sometimes these may not be weeds. They may just be dormant. So I'm gonna treat this just like it's a bush. I'm not gonna say, oh, it's a dead vegetation, you need to take it out. We're gonna tell you to thin and prune it, and skirt it up so that just like an umbrella shape that you can see it. Because sometimes this stuff that looks dead, it comes back. It just, it looks ugly because that's what happens during its off season. So, but if it's an obvious weed and not brush, and it's, how weeds pop over all, we're gonna tell you to take that down to, 2 inches.
Next.
This is spaced out really good. If that, you're asking my opinion, that looks like combustibles, but I don't think we're gonna sit there and eat you alive for that. I would remove it from the fence, whatever it is, as much as I could. But the space back here is spaced out pretty good for a canyon room home. It's kind of hard to judge this at all because you can see some spacing, even though the brush doesn't look pretty. You can kind of see some spacing there. I would get these up off the ground, the dead vegetation. I would cut around the brush here, and make sure that you're able to cut some of this stuff back. And then anything that's weeds, again, just cut it down. I can't tell if those palm fronds are too low, but even the palm fronds, just like a branch, you would handle it 6 feet, the lowest branch. Now, I don't want to complicate things, but if you put bushes underneath your trees, the fire is judged on the way, to keeping it simple, is just imagine that bush is going to burn 3 times its height. So if you thought about the bush burning 3 times its height and it's underneath the tree, now that whole 6 foot rule about the first branch being 6 foot because you just introduced ladder fuel to it, you just changed the game. 4 foot bush is going to burn 3 times its height, 12 foot, right? So then your first branch is going to be 12 feet. So we don't recommend that you put any kind of bushes underneath trees. It's just kind of like climbing a tree. Food for thought.
What's not clear here, this is bare dirt up here.
That's clear dirt up there?
Yeah, that's clear dirt.
Okay.
And this is all
Weeds.
Dry grass.
Okay, so the dry grass, even though this is spaced out really good, the weeds and stuff like that, the dry grass, only the 100 feet. If this was lower than 100 feet, going back to like your question, you're not gonna mess with that. You're not gonna touch it. You're only gonna do 100 feet from the back of your house. So with the tall grasses, you're gonna cut them down to 2 inches. They're weed. Weeds are tall grasses. Arundo is a weed. Arundo bamboo, you know, people, oh, I got arundo bamboo. That's not the good bamboo. That's that stuff that's invasive. It grows like crazy. And it's hard to get rid of it too. This right here is that thing I talked about, denuding the land, erosion problems. Don't have anything down to the bare dirt. Don't do that. Don't do that to your homes or your neighbors. Because you're gonna have soil integrity, erosion problems. You're gonna have, and if you have, where you've taken it down like that, you gotta do BMPs, the best management practices. You're talking about soil samples and having the city bring out their folks, maybe if development service gets involved to look at what's been done to the soil, because it may be a form of grading what you've done or grubbing, and that's gonna get costly. And then you may even have to revegetate it. So just kind of keep in mind that you don't want to denude the land as much as possible, because the worst thing that you're doing is causing issues with soil erosion. And then the second thing is, when it comes down to denuding the land, you're going to have to put in some like fiber rolls, silk screening, some of the best management practices for erosion, because sure enough, it's going to rain.
Homes on this side, the bushes are left, so you're gonna have soil retention there. On that side, I mean, we get rains like we did last year for a couple of years in a row, and their yard's gonna end up in their neighbor's town.
Yeah, I just recently did a big complex up in La Jolla, and one of the things that they were dealing with is erosion issues, gullies, and it came from overwatering and some other issues that had happened that was deeper than the water from Mother Nature. But there were some brush issues there, but because the soil is so unstable, we didn't address that. It's nothing to address there. We got to get the soil in control, because we can't get out there having people slide and hurt themselves. It's so dangerous.
Next one.
Was that it, Mike? Or?
One left. Oh.
Okay, so again, this one here is weeds, and if this wasn't a canyon, and just say this is in an HOA and it's just a sloped hillside, because remember, HOAs were developed. It wasn't that it was a canyon, it's a developed area. So you can modify and just put a bush here in the middle, and the rest of it is beautiful grass. You can do whatever you want, because you're developing an HOA, right? That's part of your construction. But if you have this, and let's just say this is exactly what it is, it's not a canyon, it's just a hillside. These are weeds. This is just like you would do your regular lawn. Just cut it back 10 feet or so, or cut the weeds down around near the sidewalk. That would be the way we would address it, is just the weeds that are back here near the sidewalk, because it may not even be 10 feet to work with. Just cut the weeds down right here in front of the sidewalk. As far as the land in itself, you should maintain something like this, like you would your yard. But again, if this was an HOA and it's not a canyon or something like that, that's the way I'm addressing this. But if this was if this was a canyon, and this was a sloped area right here in the canyon, and it's near the house, over here on the side of this house, we're gonna cut this back. We're gonna cut these weeds down, because this is all weeds, right? So we're gonna have these weeds cut down to 2 inches.
Who gets to cut that?
Whoever owns the property.
But how about the neighbor on the left? Because 100 feet from his house would take you out into his neighbor's yard.
100 feet from this person's house?
This home, this is an empty lot.
This is and who does the lot belong to? Because someone still owns it.
Someone still owns it. Yes.
Right.
So this guy's 100 feet, he needs to go into his neighbor's yard.
Yeah, so he had to get his neighbor's permission, or the neighbor has to do it. That's it. It's
they
just
gotta work
that
it out
simple.
somehow,
They have to
but-
work it out between the two of them. And
Or you call you, and then you make.
they're gonna, yeah. Call 533-4444, and someone's gonna come out and inspect this, and the person that's gonna be cited is gonna be the person that owns that property. and then it goes from there. Any additional questions?
Yeah,
Oh, go ahead, Mike. You're working on something, I can tell.
Yeah, a lot of people think 100 feet is behind the house. 100 feet's around the house,
Right.
away from the structure. So, beside the house, I mean, this is brush, could easily catch fire, could easily spread to that new fence.
As long as that's a canyon, as long as this is a canyon, right, and this berm is a part of a canyon, then the 100 feet applies. But if this is not canyon, and this is just developed a hillside, then the 100 feet wouldn't be applicable. It would be just the weed abatement portion like we talked about, cutting the weeds down, keeping the trees trimmed back and removing dead vegetation. Yeah, but if this is canyon rim, Mike's spot on. It could be right beside somebody's house, on the side of the house. Or part of it could be counting the canyon that's in front of their house. But see, if I looked at the canyon across the street from someone's house, imagine the street by itself is how wide? About 30 feet or so, because 15 feet each lane or something, I'm guessing. So 30 feet wide, and then their front yard and so forth. So you can end up having 100 feet of defensible space if the canyon was across the street from someone's home. It's so many variables to it. I was just trying to keep it simple for you all.
Any other questions for Gary and Michael? They're both up here?
Thank you.
Let's give them a round of applause. Next up, we're going to have Mike Shoecraft with Fire Safe Council.
No, home protection.
And he's going to be talking about home protection. So please help me welcome Mike.
I have a lot of pictures and very few words, so Dave's going to have to page through here quickly, and we'll cover areas on your home. Go ahead. And next. We're on the wildland-urban interface. If you're on the canyon or you border Black Mountain, you're directly on what they call the Wooey. There's 5,000 homes in Penasquitos that are directly on the Wooey. Also, there's Wooey areas within Penasquitos because we have a lot of internal canyons coming off of those two areas. Yes. This is the high severity zones in San Diego. There's Penasquitos. It's almost all red. The only area that's white there is the area around Vaughan Shopping Center and branching off of that, and that is not considered high severity. Those areas are considered high danger from wildfire. Go ahead, next. It's not a matter of if, it's a matter of when, because of where we sit. We have severe problems because of population, bordering homes moving into the Wooey vegetation, our brush, sage, the topography, and the climate, the Santa Ana winds. Next, please. That one's quickly. Just we normally, next one, please. This fire is from, this is Scripps Ranch from the Cedar Fire. And we normally think a wildfire and a danger from it is this wall of fire coming in and everything. But this may only last 5 to 10 minutes. And wildfires are very fast moving. Go to the next one, please. You've got, from the flames, you've got ashes from before the fire comes through, and from what's left over afterwards, you've got ashes blowing in. This may go up to 2 miles, these ashes. And so, in Penasquitos, we've got every home is probably in danger from the ashes beforehand and the embers and afterwards. These areas here would probably just hit those that are right on the border. Hopefully, it won't go, home to home and further in. Next, please. The embers can go a mile ahead of the flame front. They can smolder, sit there and ignite later. In this instance here, you can see where it's gone from home to home. Here we've got one home hit, and that's it. The other one's safe. And there are reasons why those homes are safe. The things they've done to their homes. Also, it can be chance. They're hit and neighbors not. In this instance here, in the bottom, you see before and what's left after. Next, please. Santa Ana winds, very hot, very dry. We're used to them. I don't like them myself. This is from, let's see, the 2003 wildfires when we had them all the way from Pendleton on down to Otay. This would be the Cedar Fire here. It's a lot of wind blowing. And those winds can blow those embers, okay, several miles from the fire. Next, please. Fire usually follows the watersheds. This is from the Witch Fire 2007. You can see where it follows down San Diego River and the San Diego River here. Bernardo Fire, it followed, I'm trying to find on the map, where is Lasardi Creek? Somewhere in here. Yeah, Bernardo Fire followed Lasardi Creek. So most fires follow watershed areas. So Canyon, Penasquitas Creek, it's going down Penasquitas Canyon. So that's, follows this pattern. Black Mountain, you've got, as I said, Lasardi Creek comes off of Black Mountain. You've got other areas coming off of Black Mountain. And the yin and yang of wildfire defense is your brush management, creating a defensible space, and then your home itself, creating a defensible home. By what you do, the home is built that way. A lot of them today, and you'll see some examples I'm going to show you of homes that are built initially that way, or you make modifications to make it defensible. Next, please. The objective with building a defensible home is keeping the fire outside the home. You want to modify your home if necessary in areas that will keep the fire out, and a lot of the things I'm going to show you in the next slides are things that are important to do to your home to make sure you keep the fire out. Okay, next slide, please. I'll take questions during, by the way, rather than wait to the end. I'm going to cover roofs and gutters, eaves, vents, exterior, windows, doors, and outside the home. And starting with the roof, next one. That's not a good choice. Thatch roof, and we don't have any of those here. Next one, please. And this is an old newspaper article from the 1995 Black Mountain Fire. We used to have a lot of shake roofs in Penasquitas. Thanks to the insurance industry and common sense that I know of, we have no shake roofs in Penasquitas anymore. A shake roof is not a good roof to have. This picture shows a couple of Penasquitas residents hosing down their shake roofs, which they had to do at that time, having a shake roof. That is not a safe roof to have. Next one, please. Yeah, you want for roof, you want a composition roof. It's made of fiberglass and asphalt, or concrete and clay tile, steel roof. Those are all Class A roofs. That's the kind of roof you want on your house. Next, please. Also, your roof has to be in good maintenance. A roof that is aged and has got areas like that, embers could go through the roof if it's not clear of debris. And a lot of us have homes that have complex roofs. Debris can collect, and embers can settle in that area.
See, one thing that was an advantage of a shake roof was that if you had a fire in the house, they could cut a hole in your roof and they could put water into it. That used to be important, to be able to put a fire out in your attic. But, you know, when you go to the roofs to keep fires out, the problem with them, of course, is that it's hard to make a hole in them to pour the water in if you have an inside the house fire. Do you have any comments about, no, we switched roof thinking over here. We have more outside fires than inside fires, I guess.
Shake roofs, there are a couple areas of San Diego, the Penasquitos, I remember, used to have a lot of shake roofs. And I've seen them after the Cedar Fire in 2003. Yeah, a lot of people were replacing their roofs. A lot of them use now the concrete tiles that look like shake. Because I went around the neighborhood and asked a couple of people, is that a shake roof? And they said, no, we did have shake. We replaced it with concrete tiles so it looked just like the old roof. Next, please. Bird stops. Great for stopping birds and great for keeping embers out. New homes, my home, built in '93, it was built with bird stops. Older homes, you need to add them. Anything older than that that's got clay or concrete tiles with the ends open, embers will get in there. Gutters. Clean your gutters. The debris that collects in the gutters, embers could collect in there, and you'd have a fire from starting there in the gutter. Something I see very little of that's very important. Starting today, they now build homes with boxed eaves, but most of our eaves are not boxed in. Boxed eaves, the fire can get up in the eaves, and a fire below will ignite the wood that's in your eave and everything. Example down there. On the next slide, is a gentleman boxing in the eaves. Good material for do-it-yourself is hardy board, cement fiber board, stucco, aluminum. Remember, caulk the edges to seal it all off. I had, to give you a rough idea, it's an old estimate, old house we lived in University Heights 25 years ago. I had an estimate for, because I was looking at not painting it, I was looking at doing the eaves with aluminum, and for that house the estimate was $2,500 to have it. So that's expensive to do, but it's important if you have the money, have the time. Next one, please. New homes, these are at the end of Carmel Mountain Road. They're being built with box eaves. Those are stucco.
Passed in January 2008 that you have to have.
It protects it. That's not combustible, and I think it looks nicer and cleaner too than the open eave. Vents, you've got them everywhere around your house. And the important thing on vents is they have 1/4 inch, fairly heavy gauge wire on them. Just keep the embers out. You meet code if you have wire on your vents. And you've got vents in my house, I've got that kind, I've got this kind. I don't have that kind, but I have seen that quite frequently.
It was mentioned before, to an 8.
They were thinking of going to 8. The problem with an 8 is that things can get caught in the eighth, and then what happens is you might have like lint or other things caught in there, and then that's something that could catch fire if an ember hits that. So quarter inch is what's recommended. Now, if you want to spend the money, the next slide. This is your normal vent, gable vent, okay, and the next one. These are Vanguard and Vulcan vents. This is Vulcan here, the others are Vanguard. These cost about $100 each. What these do is, if heated, they close up. And it reacts to the heat, and as it cools back off, it'll go back out. Those run about $100 each. These, the small ones, are about $30. The larger ones are about $100 plus installation. You'd have to put them in. Those are nice in that they vent like this, so that the embers have a place to stop before it goes in. And as I said, if you add those up around your house, if you want to spend the money, if you want the protection, those are good to put in there. Siding. Wood siding is not good unless it's treated. If it is treated wood, you can use for siding. What's good for siding is brick, stucco, cement fiber materials. Hardy board makes a very good siding replacement. It looks just like wood. But, exterior siding is vulnerable to radiant heat and embers settling against the house too, getting ignited. Next, please. Windows. Windows should be dual pane. Reason for that is that if you lose one, you've got the protection left of the other, and it also keeps more heat out instead of in the inside the house. If you do replacement windows with vinyl windows, make sure the corners are welded. You've got metal reinforcing in here, because vinyl melts. You replace it with a vinyl window. Without that, you get heat for the fire next to the house. You're not going to keep the fire out because the windows, the glass is going to fall out as the vinyl melts. Next, please. Windows and doors. Of course, annually inspect for wood damage on the house. Skylight should meet local building codes. Doors should be fire resistant with no gaps on them. Decks, not a place to store firewood. They should be, actually they should also, being made of wood, it's fuel. So there are materials that are fire resistant, can be used on deck. Screened in space, metal screen, okay, helps keep embers out of the area. So you still wouldn't want the wood in there, but if this was screened with metal screen, it'd be one way to keep the embers out. Next, please. Fences. In the county, it's a requirement. The 5 feet next to the house cannot be a burnable material. Have to be vinyl fence. Vinyl melts. It doesn't burn. Concrete, stucco. Anything's better than a wooden fence next to your house, because the fence catches fire, it'll just go right from the house, fence to the house. It's not a requirement in the city. It is recommended, though. Next. Other things, arbors, canopy awnings, porch overheads, porch furniture, propane grills, firewood storing. I mean, all that is a potential danger. You should keep it away from the house, or if you're using your your grill next to the house, if there's a fire coming, you want to move it away from the house. Next one. My neighbor and I are replacing our common fence. And while I was working on it, I happened to notice everything I had next to my house and what I moved into there while we were working on it. And it's kind of quiz time. What do I need to change here? You got fire grill, my propane grill is stored next to the house. And it doesn't show up, my lawnmower's stored next to the house. That's good that that's next to the fireplace, but that wooden fence there is next to the house. I'm storing wood next to the house.
Your branches.
Yeah, this arbor is wooden, goes right up to the house. The trees, right under the overhang there, close to the house. The only two things right in that picture, you couldn't tell them from the picture, is my new fence in the front. This is composite. And the other thing is all my vents have got the 1/4-inch wire in them. Vents here. Let's see, you don't see it in the picture. There's a vent here. Even from the vent from the dryer, it's got 1/4-inch wire on it. Because the dryer vent itself, you could get embers blowing up there.
Is that a door leading into your house?
That door is not a fire door. Yeah, and it wasn't code when the house was built. My fire door is from the garage into the house.
Yes, but that would help.
Yeah, it would help if there was a fire door there. Okay, we recommend, and let's see, you can move on to the next couple. Yeah. Everybody's got this. Yeah, we recommend the Berkeley Toolkit. There's a do-it-yourself assessment online. You can go through your house, answer questions, one thing after another, you know, and it starts just like I did here. It starts at the roof, to the eaves, and moves on, and asks you questions about your own house, and at the end, it'll tell you recommendations on what you should do to make your house fire safe. And this handout gives you the link to the Berkeley self-assessment. And on the next one, I think you want to be, yeah, no, that was fine, go back. Yeah, 2 apps I have on my phone that are good to have. They have all the material both Gary and I have covered today in them. There's one, the St. Aid Emergency app. It will let you know where the area fires are and what condition is on them. Also within it, you can go in and click on things you need to do to get ready. And most everything we've covered is in this app also. And go to the next one, CAL FIRE app. Won't tell you about the current fires, I don't think, will it? CAL FIRE app.
What was your question?
Will it tell you about current fires?
Yes.
It will, yeah. But it covers statewide, not just local. It also has everything that we've covered today is within that app. And there's a URL where you can get it. The slide there. Okay, next one. Okay, and the big question is why the difference? I mean, this home's safe, that home wasn't. Next one, please. And it's a system approach, everything around the house. Here it's cleaned up, and things on the house itself. Can make a difference on whether a house survives or one doesn't. Next. Yeah. When you leave, don't forget to close your windows. close your doors. Even a safe house is at risk if you leave it open to fire by forgetting to close the windows and the doors when you leave. In this example here, we've got garage doors left open. There's a gap. There's a doggy doors left open. You have a doggy door. Don't forget to close it off. Broken window. Unscreened chimney. Okay. That's it. Any questions? Yes.
Yes, sir. In my condo complex here within the San Diego address, we have buildings that are co-shared, 5 families to a building. And it's the type of setup where person A's garage is underneath person B's living quarters. Is it an issue, a code compliance type of issue, if the garage is full of just stuff to the point where you can't even get a car into it?
Well, I
Pass
don't
that
want
if
development
there-
services. However, I think if you call that into development services, they would probably have someone come out and inspect it. Because in the city of San Diego, garages are developed for parking only, off-street parking. So if the person's garage is full of stored stuff, that means that that's a parking spot or two. They can't, that's gonna cause problems for off-street parking. That make sense?
Yes, my concern really is, this is fuel for the people that are unassociated, live upstairs from that garage.
Yeah. Yeah, so if that's an issue, I would call that 236-5500 number, because they would come out and inspect that.
Okay.
That also is a good condo issue to take up with condo management, yeah. And stress when you bring it up, the safety of everybody around there.
Thank you both.
Any other questions?
You said there was an app that you can put on your phone about San Diego emergency.
Yeah, going back to it. Yeah, that's a very good one. When we've had fires, I've clicked on that and checked, and that's let me know, I think, on some things that were going on by coming up on the phone, pinging, and giving me something. That's a good app to have. It's readysandiego.org/San Diego Emergency app. You can also just Google San Diego Emergency app.
Okay, mine didn't come up with that.
Google Ready San Diego.
Ready San Diego.
Yes.
What about, like, on the main streets and whatnot, if there's dead trees hanging over the road?
Again, I would, yeah,
I would call that in.
yeah, hold
Yeah,
it.
if there's any kind of issue regarding like vegetation, just call it in and be safe. I mean, it's people that work these areas, so even though we're swamped, that's the story of everybody's life. Somebody's gonna eventually come out here and they're gonna inspect it. It's better to be safe than sorry. So just call it in. If you're concerned about it, call that 533-4444. See, I got the numbers today. I saw it on the board. Call that number. That's the fire department's complaint desk, and they'll have someone come out and inspect it. Don't expect them to be out the next day because they're pretty busy, but someone will come out.
It also depends on where the tree is. There are lots of areas in the community that the trees on the streets are maintained by the Maintenance Assessment District. You've got trees on Carmel Mountain Road, Black Mountain Road, right out front here. Those trees are all maintained by the Maintenance Assessment District. Yeah. So that, you can mention me and I can pass it on to the person in charge of the mat. Same thing in Park Village, they have their own mat, and theirs are maintained by their mat. Any other questions? All
All right, let's give our speakers a big round of applause. Thank you, Mike. Anybody have questions for Tiffany and Gary while they're still here? Any group-related questions? They'll hang around for a few minutes. Yes?
I have a question. I wanted to know more about this CERT, the community groups.
Community emergency response, yes.
I'm not a CERT member. Is there a CERT member here?
There we go.
Is there a Penasquita CERT member?
Sorry, well, it's actually, the community emergency response team, before, they used to have individual teams in communities, and now they stopped doing that, but Rancho Penasquitas and Rancho Bernardo still get together, their CERT teams, and they still get together and discuss things to help themselves be prepared and everything. It's a volunteer way of helping to prepare your community. So if there's an event, you will be notified if it's in your community or if it's in other communities and they need your assistance. And then if it's in your community, your first goal is to help yourself, help your family, help your neighbors, then help your community. You're trained by professional fire department. You go through a number of weeks of classes, and you're educated on different things. Will we go out and fight fires? No. We're there to prepare our community and help them. And in the Cedar fires and the 2007 fires, we helped the fire department. Some people helped at the stations. Some people helped answer 211 phones. And helped bring food to the fire department, helped at evacuation centers, checking people in. So there's all different levels. You don't have to be physically able. There's different levels of help that you can do, but you're taught the basics, and that's mostly to help your community. So it's something that you can Google it, search, and learn all about it, and they offer sessions every so often, I think once or twice a year, training sessions, depending on how much money they have for them.
Thank you. Other questions? Yeah.
This is more of a bigger question, but I guess maybe over Homeland Security. If there was some kind of terrorist, if there was some kind of something that happened that affected our grid, I hear stories about being prepared for that. Do you have any special recommendations to help in that type of a situation?
For preparing?
We have generators or
Generators are great.
what do you recommend for?
They can be costly. So we do plan for a cyber attack that affects the grid. We do have a specific cybersecurity plan. And how you would prepare is just how you would prepare for any other emergency, because you're going to be you could be out of power, out of gas, in a fire or an earthquake or any other situation. At the city, we also prepare for medical issues. So in Irma, after Irma, there still are a lot of people that are in facilities and they require medical devices to continue living. I have a medical device I have to have at home. And something that we've just recently done is we've bought medical device charging stations. So at certain shelters, we'll now have spaces for people to do that. Our shelters have backup generators. Our EOCs have backup generators, so we're very prepared for that. And as far as cybersecurity goes, the city's far ahead of many of our colleagues. I sit on the California Cybersecurity Task Force, and they're really looking at the city of San Diego for how to deal with something like that.
So do we have a specific shelter for each community? For this area, is there a specific shelter you would go to with a generator in that situation?
We have pre-designated shelters on our list that we keep internally. The reason why we don't put them out is because we don't want people going to, the rec center if there's a fire there, because they might assume, well, that's my community shelter. We might actually send you down to Tierra Santa or down to Mission Valley. So the Ready San Diego app is going to be the best source to know which shelter to go to. We actually put that information out right from the Emergency Operations Center.
So Ready San Diego.
Ready San Diego, yeah.
Okay, got it. Okay, thank you.
Other questions?
Can I actually jump on that a
Yeah,
little bit
of
in
course.
terms of emergency products for the kit? I know that American Red Cross has lists of things, but are there products that you recommend in terms of radio, like solar powered or a hand crank or any other kind of, without going into, here's your kit that you should have, particular products besides just a generator, but that you recommend having in, I know there's checklists in there, but brands, things to look for when I'm building my kit, anything that, you recommend for emergency supplies.
Yeah, I would say contacts is something that a lot of people forget. I don't know if you were all here for the 2011 blackout, but a lot of phones didn't work. The cell phones didn't work, and unfortunately, most people don't have landlines anymore. So when it came to communication, people had trouble getting back in touch with their family. So if you have an out-of-state contact that you can call, and that's your designated family representative, they can help connect everyone, because your call will make it out of state. It just gets impacted in local traffic during disaster. So contacts for out-of-state people that can help coordinate your family, and then contacts, a prescription list if you have any medications that you need. A lot of people tend to forget that too. A lot of the flyers say keep extra medications. I don't know why my insurance company doesn't let me take one more pill than they won't pay for anything more than they have to. So I keep a list of medications, and I just know that, I personally go to Rite Aid. I don't know where you go, but I know that it's a national, they have branches everywhere, so I could go to any facility and pick up extra medications. So I would highly recommend a contact list with an out-of-town contact and a copy of the prescriptions.
Yes.
To piggyback on your question, I know because the Community Council, Rancho Bernardo Community Council worked with Penasquitas Town Council a number of years ago to develop, so I don't know if you still have a page on your website, that disaster preparedness page that would list all those things that you need for your family, your pets, your things like that. Do you guys still have that on your website?
Off of the town council's website, there's a link to the Fire Safe Council,
Okay.
and the brochure is listed there.
So there you go. And just like with these hurricanes that are just happening, it's not just 3 days. They're recommending at least 2 weeks, and if not more. And to piggyback on what Tiffany was saying, every 6 months, the best way to remember is when it's daylight savings time. Go through your bag. Sometimes we get bigger or smaller, so if you have clothes in there, you might want to check on those. Your medicines, your water, your food, that's the best time. Your batteries, things like that, you might want to change. A little promotion. This is Emergency Preparedness Month, so the Rancho Bernardo Community Council every single day on their Facebook page is putting an emergency preparedness tip of the day. So you might want to check Rancho Bernardo Community Council on Facebook, and you'll see every single day there is a tip, like some of them that was Tiffany was mentioning. And then because October 22nd is the 10-year anniversary of the 2007 fires, which impacted Rancho Bernardo, Poway, Ramona, and so on. There's going to be a big commemorative event. So instead of having their annual safety fair in September, it's going to be on that day. There's going to be 30 booths. There's going to be police, FBI, CAL FIRE, all of that. It's a whole day event, food trucks, entertainment, so you might want to, we'll be sending PQ Town Council the information. It's open to everybody, so you'll be able to get a lot of valuable information there too. And I think water is the most important thing to have too.
Right.
Sorry.
No, that's good. Good information.
I'm sorry, October 22nd is going to be from 11 a.m. till 5 p.m. So that'll be with booths, entertainment, all sorts of things. It's going to be, so far there's 30 vendors. And then I also just want to piggyback, I'm sorry, if you and your neighbors are thinking about changing your fences, you might want to consider vinyl instead of wood. Vinyl melts, wood burns. And also when you're preparing your house to make that safety, you can make your property as safe as possible, but if your neighbors aren't doing it, it's not going to help. And that's one of the things that happens in large fires. So you might want to talk to your neighbors and get to know them and encourage them to do whatever you're doing on your property. I'm done.
Good point. No, good point. Yeah. Yes.
Location for that?
Rancho Bernardo, We're just changing our location because we just had a very large band, and so we're actually meeting at 4 o'clock today to confirm the location. So again, we'll be letting the town council know so that they can promote it on Nextdoor and on their Facebook and everything like that.
Perfect, thank you. Any other questions? Yes?
Is there a recommended place to purchase the supplies for our to-go kits?
We don't have a recommended place. Whatever you can find, the cheapest,
I know
the best
it can
deal.
be costly if you have multiple family members.
Exactly.
And you need to have them in 3 different places, so that can be costly.
We have a lot of, like, at my house, we have a lot of those, like, trial size things of, like, shampoo, and little things like that that can fit in a kit, because it has to be something to go. You know, people like, Dolly, trying to drink. Yeah, so just kind of, you know, take into consideration. Now's the time to do it, you know, preparing, because you can see what really worked for you. And just do a little trial run, you know, what worked, and just set it up one day at the door and say, okay, I'm gonna take this up to the car and see if it works. But just like Robin was saying, you know, it's good to just have kids in different locations of things that you may need, because you never know where you're gonna be when that emergency occurs.
Yeah, I was looking at, you know, because they have like the little hand crank and flashlight
Right.
and all those things, and like I said, those things can be pretty costly. So I was just wondering if there's like a place that maybe you can buy them in bulk, and then you can like share them, you know, with maybe like a couple of families.
If you have a list, you can go to like Walmart or something. A lot of times those free cases that you buy don't necessarily have what you want. So you develop your own, you can just make a running list and then go to like Walmart, Target, all those places and see what materials they have and do it that way.
If you do online shopping, I've used Amazon to create most of my, you know, items for my list. And the nice thing about Amazon is they have ratings for everything. So you get an idea of if other people like it or not. And then if you search by price, you can basically get the lowest price with the best ratings. And I found a lot of good deals on Amazon that way. So that was another idea.
Where is the best place to keep your kit in your house?
Well, in your house, I would say to keep it near like an exit point, or maybe the garage. I try and stay away from that, maybe close to the door. Is where we do, because if I'm gonna go, I'd probably go out the front door. But if it's near your bedroom, sometimes that area that may be safe because you're in your bed, you just grab it and you go. But if you have time to stage things, like if you have the time to stage things, then stage it as close to like your vehicle or where you can exit that you possibly can. And hopefully your house is not the house that's impacted. Or your vehicle. So again, having the opportunity to spread it out and having kids at other locations, that's why it becomes so important.
Any other questions? Okay, well, let's give our speakers another round of applause. I'd like to personally thank all of you for coming today. I know there were some last minute changes and everything, but I thought this went together great. I hope everyone learned a lot. I just wanted to quickly thank all of our volunteers from the town council who came here today for all of their help. And your local town council did donate $800 to put this event on, so they're highly supportive of this disaster preparedness event. I'd also like to thank the Hotel Carlin who gave us this room, and then they put on a great little venue for refreshments and everything for us. So let's give them a round of applause as well. And of course, this event wouldn't happen without you, so thank you all for coming. I really appreciate it. I hope you learned a lot. Thank you.